Welcome to another DK Custom Products video. My name is Kevin, this is Dwayne, and today we're going to be talking about a pretty popular myth among Harley-Davidson riders.
It's actually a double myth. First part of it is that deceleration pop from your exhaust system is bad. It's a terrible thing. That's myth one. Myth two is that deceleration popping is indicative of a bad fuel management system or a bad tune.
And we'll put a link in the description below to a report. So everything we're talking about in this video is in a written report that you can reference, and it's in the description below. Decel pop is not bad for your engine. It doesn't hurt your engine. The decel pop, that pop you're hearing, is in the exhaust. It's already out of the engine.
That's right.
Nothing's happening inside the engine. It's not bad for your engine. It's not traveling back up the pipe into your engine and damaging it at all. So why does decel pop occur, Dwayne?
Well, one reason could be the bike is so lean that the exhaust is superheated, burning the unburnt fuel that is in the exhaust system.
And there's always unburnt fuel. Even on a bike that runs really lean,
Right.
there's always some unburnt fuel in there.
Right, but this is a very rare situation that is the reason you're having deceleration pop.
So decel pop can happen from it being too lean, is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's so lean that it's getting superheated, then the little bit of fuel that's in there is going to do decel pop.
Right, but
Right.
that's a rare.
That maybe 1 out of 100 bikes that has decel pop that's happening.
Right, so Kevin, explain the other reason someone may have deceleration pop.
Well, decel pop, when a bike is properly tuned, decel pop happens because there's always unburnt fuel in the exhaust. And if the ratio of the air and the unburnt fuel in the exhaust is just right, it's going to ignite and it's going to give a decel pop. And so there's always going to be unburnt fuel, there's always going to be air, and if the mixture is just right, you're going to have decel pop. Now, you can either introduce more air so that the AFR is different in the exhaust and then it doesn't pop, or you can introduce more fuel so that you're getting even more unburnt fuel in there. And that's what a lot of people do. And in fact, that's what both the Power Vision and the FP3 now have, what they call decel enlanement, where they actually are putting more fuel into the exhaust on deceleration because so many people don't like decel pop. And we should stop here for a second. Decel pop is not bad for your bike. It doesn't damage the bike, it's not indicative of a bad tune, but a lot of people don't like it. And this bike is specifically tuned to have decel pop. Because with the good tune on it, with the open exhaust, and it says the Samson fishtails on it with no baffles, and it has the TTIs in it, it wasn't having any decel pop. I hated it. I wanted decel pop. So I actually have it when I'm at 0 throttle. I'm introducing more fuel than is needed so that it richens up the AFR in the pipes so that I get decel pop. And I have people mention sometimes in videos, oh, your bike has a lot of decel pop. What's up with that? I did it on purpose.
Yeah. So that raises the question, do bikes with stock exhaust have an issue with deceleration popping?
Actually, I've never been on a Harley with stock exhaust where there wasn't decel pop. But there's so much baffling in there, you don't really hear it unless you're listening for it. But every new bike I've gotten from the factory, with the factory pipes on it, factory air cleaner on it, it has decel pop going on. It's just muffled that you barely hear it or don't hear it at all. And because that unburnt fuel is likely to burn, and when it's burning in the exhaust, that is the pop that you hear. And so you hear it, and you hear it more obviously with an open exhaust because there's nothing muffling that decel pop.
That's right.
So it's really an AFR issue. So a person who maybe is running a 2-inch baffle and they're rush slip-ons might get a decel pop, but if they go down to a 1.5 inch baffle or up to a 2.5 inch baffle, they may get more or less decel pop because it's changing the AFR in the pipe. What's most important to understand is the following statement that I know Dwayne is just chomping at the bit to say.
Most engines that are tuned for peak performance, they have a free-flowing exhaust. When you have a free-flowing exhaust, that's going to present a little more deceleration pop. It's the nature of the beast. They go hand in hand.
Yeah, there's always going to be unburnt fuel in the exhaust. Factory pipes have decel pop. It's just so muffled you can't hear it.
Right.
I mean, just go to any racetrack. You know they're not running their vehicles too lean at a racetrack or they blow up halfway through the race. And they all have decel pop. A bike that is tuned for top performance, that has a free-flowing intake and a free-flowing exhaust, is going to have decel pop unless there's one thing that you do to get rid of it if you don't like the decel pop. And there's two ways to do this one thing. What is the one thing?
You change the AFR so that it won't ignite.
Yeah, it's that simple. And you can change there's two ways to change the AFR. One is, if you have open pipes, you're going to get more power if you use Thunder Torque inserts. When you put the Thunder Torque insert into the pipe that is having decel pop, not only are you going to get more power because of the reduction reversion, but you're going to totally change the AFR in that pipe because you don't have the reversion rushing back up.
Right, there's less air entering your exhaust system
from the rear.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're going to change the AFR. Conversely, if you don't have decel pop and you put a TTI in there, Thunder Torque insert in there, you might end up with decel pop.
Right.
So if you're not having any decel pop and you put a TTI in, you might then have decel pop, because when you put the TTI in, you're changing the AFR. And if the AFR was such that it wasn't popping and you change the air, now maybe it is going to pop. So that's one way. The other way is, as we mentioned earlier, is that the tuners now, because so many people don't like decel pop, they've actually built into the tuners a way to change the fuel ratio upon deceleration. When you're at zero throttle, they change the fuel ratio to dump more fuel through the intake, through the cylinders, and into the exhaust, so that there's an excessive amount of fuel in the pipe so that it's not going to ignite because the AFR is not on. And you know, if you don't like it, if you don't like the decel pop, then use the decel enlainment feature in your tuner and you can get rid of the decel pop that way.
So deceleration pop, it's not bad for your bike. It's not indicative of a bad tune. It's only present depending on the AFR within your exhaust system. So there's a lot of variables that can determine how much or how little deceleration popping you have, how loud it is, but it's there. It's there. If you want peak performance, deceleration pop comes hand in hand with peak performance.
And you can have the peak performance in your tune when you're getting on the throttle and still use the enlainment that only kicks in when you're at zero throttle.
Yes.
You're going to get less miles per gallon, but you can still have a peak tune and just use the decel enlainment to over-richen it when you're on zero throttle, which won't affect you at all, you know, when you're actually riding with the throttle on. But yeah, decel pop's not bad for the bike. It's not indicative of a bad tune. Now that's not saying that a person with a bad tune could have decel pop. But one thing is sure, if you have a great tune and you have open intake and open exhaust, 99 times out of 100, you're going to have decel pop, because that's the nature of a good tune.
Right.
So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up.
Hit that notification bell so you'll be updated when our next video comes out.
And subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'd appreciate it. It helps us out. It doesn't cost you anything.
And y'all ride safe out there.
Yeah,